It is March 12, 2025, and it is officially 5:33 p.m. Call this meeting to order. The termination of quorum, we have Luis Gomez, Iris De Leon, and Cristal Baca in attendance, and we are missing Herman today. We have established quorum. We're gonna move on to public comments. Wait. Public comments? All right, we'll move on to public hearings. Okay, and approval of minutes of previous board meeting dated February 12, 2025. I believe there's a copy here. Y'all need time to look at it, or y'all wanna go ahead and make a motion?
Move to approve the February 12th, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
Crystal makes the motion. I second that, all in favor? Aye, motion carries. Let's move on to information or discussion items. Nance, discuss native plant list for the city parks.
Okay. I was just gonna kind of follow up with this. I have an email thread with Will Jewett and Adam Neville from the beautification department, I guess. From the city.
Environmental services.
Environmental services. So Adelina Field, Will Jewett, and I think 3 or 4 other people too that have really started talking about this. I mentioned at the meeting tonight, if we haven't found it, they all had previous engagements and everything else. One thing I did want to show you all there is this is an example, this long one is an example of a native plant list used in El Paso. So with all their parks and everything else, this kind of requires them, I think, to do native plants within that area. What I wanted y'all to see was that they break it down into trees, large trees, which is 50 foot diameter or more, medium 30 to 49, small trees, a section for shrubs, a section for accent plants, grasses, which is ornamental grasses and turf grasses, and ground covers. So they have a whole bunch of stuff there, and it kind of lists. This is way more than I think we need in our area, but it does kind of just give you, it has a lot of good information, like the height and the width of the plants and everything else. This would kind of come back in from David's crew as well, where if they had 20 plants they were working with, it could kind of talk about the size wise, so y'all don't have to keep this all in your head. This is basically just a spreadsheet database of possible issues with them, maybe when they should be trimmed, you know, like what month they're trimmed in or anything else like that. But something like this was kind of the brainchild and idea of a native plants list. Then that next one is the Alpine Public Library landscape, which lists 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So about 16 different plants right there on that one. So I was gonna ask Megan and city leadership Geo kind of what the next action should be on something like this to move this project forward.
I think it'd be really important if we make sure we have all the stakeholders here. So since you have been working with Will Jewett and Adelina, and then of course David, if it's a workshop or if it, and it doesn't have to be like during a regular Parks Board meeting since you meet monthly, but getting everyone together to come up with, okay, we want 25. Like we just set a limit, we want 25 plants that we could put together a similar spreadsheet to take before council for approval. And that way, everyone would be on the same page, everyone would get their input. I know there's gonna be some pros and cons to some of them. I'm not a fruit person on city properties, so I wouldn't want fruit trees. And then at the next Parks Board meeting, if that meeting has already taken place, the next Parks Board meeting, you could make the recommendation to council based on conversation and the stakeholders to approve a specific list. And I know, I think David mentioned it last time, it would help with donations. Because people want to donate, they want to, hey, you know, I had a donation for the tree outside, they beat me to it. But then it would have been like, this is what you can plant, instead of them coming in with, you know, plants that may not necessarily be beneficial to our parks and our community.
So would that start then with a workshop? Should we invite like 5 to 6 people that are really interested in this to a workshop here?
I would, they're your stakeholders, they're the ones who have been the most active and the most knowledgeable. Adelina does a lot with the beautification side of things, especially with plants. She's also got the Grove project, so we wouldn't want to not include plants that she's already working with, because then that would kind of derail her projects, which is why you'd want her involved. Will Jewett has actually been really beneficial to the city. He's provided some trainings. He does a lot of our, he'll go out and do some of the cleanups and show us how to do the pruning, of some of the trees. So it'd be nice to have him here. I know that there's probably 3 or 4 others on the Poets Grove group, that may, want to participate since they've been active in that project. And then the fact that the library has kind of established a native plant or a plant garden in there, maybe having someone from the library and how do they determine what plants they're utilizing. And it wouldn't, like, we call it a workshop. It could just be like a little committee that got together and said, hey, these are what we're looking at. I know my big concern with plants is we get a lot of plants donated, but they're small, and so they don't always take root. And so even though it's a free donation and we put it in the ground, it's still an investment. So we're gonna wanna make sure on this list that we get something hardy. And maybe we do set a threshold with the list that, it has to be 50 gallons or bigger kind of sets. I know we also have to make sure that it's maintenance friendly. The triangle across from McDonald's, that is actually city Tech Dot Park.
Slash.
Slash trash collection facility. So we want to make sure that they're maintenance friendly. So when you look at the ground covering, you're gonna want to make sure it's not thorny material, it's not gonna collect the trash. We tend to get a lot of those issues. And then once you guys have that meeting, I think you'll walk away with it knowing Adelina will have pictures. I'm pretty sure you kind of have your catalog of ideas. And then the next Parks Board meeting, you can honestly just make a recommendation.
Should that be a brainstorm session then? Like, I don't want to get all the players here together and then we're just doing a lot of the first work. I wonder if we should just, I could work with a lot of these individuals and just put together a initial list spreadsheet, get them to okay it, and then we have maybe we put this on our next meeting and say, hey, if you guys can really come, because this is what we're brainstorming. Like, I don't know anything about native plants, so I'm gonna be listening to them about what is best. So if we can kind of do that work outside of the meeting and then come back in, and if we can get Adelina here, or maybe Will, and a couple of the other individuals, they've all been great to work with. Just to kind of show up and explain why these plants are on the list and maybe, things that they want to make sure and get in there, pros and cons.
I would definitely think that's a great idea, but I would also include at least one of the board members.
Okay.
Let them do a little of the work too. I mean, you guys are the ones who are gonna end up making the recommendation based on what he's collected. And so I think it's important, because you are an advisory board, if one of you is interested. We used to have rose bushes at Baines Park. A ton of them. You'll notice they're all gone. So if you're a plant person, I would highly recommend. It wouldn't be a violation of tone as long as it's just the two of you. And that way, one of you might wanna, hey, I really want rose bushes, or, something that you have at your house.
Volunteer. With a really big plan. You would really be helpful, like.
It's not a lot of time to invest. It would be the email side of things and then a little research, looking them up at night, like for me, it's the small ones that get me, because like I said, it's an investment. I wouldn't want to, a little twig.
I would say it'd probably be, it won't be much work at all. Really, it's gonna be reaching out, basically being CC'd on a couple emails. And then if we had a meeting, it would maybe be like, let's go grab a cup of coffee and just discuss these items. So in a meeting external to this meeting. And then coming back real quick, really, I think it's just reaching out by email and saying what needs to be on this list, and then us organizing it and then getting approval from them. I'm only gonna be here this meeting and then the next meeting, so, and then I'm living off council, so I can no longer be ex officio. So, I don't know.
He didn't run for council.
Real actually.
Well, we have an opening in Parks and Rec.
That's what I'm doing over there. But this
He's
is-
not leaving the city and helping. I'm gonna say that.
I do want to save all the things. So it's just that's a lot of work and everything, but I could totally, so like if one of y'all are interested in just speak up and we'll roll.
Word.
I think you got volunteered.
Oh, okay, I'm interested.
It's just participating in the conversations, so that when all the information's being presented, one of you at least has some background to understand how the list was compiled. And then it also gives you the ability to kind of, to see the background of how things work, and see what your stakeholders, your other residents, really are looking forward to.
That works for me.
CC on the emails and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Okay. That was, anything else y'all wanted to say on that one or?
Move on to update on Pueblo Nuevo park project. Anything new?
That was, I was gonna turn over to Megan and David.
Why not? I'll do it for you. So we had, because this is a state funded project and it is a public park, the city is learning more and more about ADA compliance and how we're not compliant in a lot of ways. So one of the requirements in order to actually open the park is we have to be ADA compliant. So we reached out last year, miscommunication, between the inspector who was actually out of Midland, and getting it inspected. He finally came in about end of October, inspected the park, and then we had what they call violations, things that are not compliant to being ADA compliant. So the team was, some of them were easily fixed, moving a trash can, getting some signs. But one of the ones that was the biggest concern was we didn't have ADA compliant parking and access to the park. So I know that part of the initial park project, when it was put together in 2020, I think the team, Eddie, I think is the one who actually said, what about parking?
Yes.
It wasn't included in the grant. So we can't open the park if we're not compliant. So I worked back with Texas Parks and Wildlife because it becomes a funding issue. Are they gonna fund the additional requirement to be able to open? Or are we gonna have to fund it through other means? The quotes came in at the end of December, beginning of January, between $14,000 and $38,000 to fix this. So I reached out, had to do a few follow-ups because just like everyone else, the state is shorthanded. So I finally did get a response. They would not approve the parking under the terminology in which I used. So he provided oh, you're doing concrete work and you have concrete in your budget. So we finally figured out how to move forward with the compliance side of it. They've already had the PO issued. I don't know when the contractor's coming in or if they already have.
They came in this morning and they should have it done by tomorrow evening.
So as soon as it's done, then we have to have the inspector back out. Or if we can do it virtually, if we can just take pictures, it really will be on his side. He'll confirm all of our check marks, like, okay, you got everything compliant, and then we can officially open. So then we will do a grand opening. We had done the soft opening in October because we thought ideally we're gonna be okay. And we hadn't had the ADA compliant inspection yet, so we didn't know. So then we'll do a grand opening, and of course the public will be invited. That's why the wire, the fencing went back up. Only because of something unfortunately did go and we weren't ADA compliant, that would be a violation, so. We wanted to make sure we follow that. So we found all of the means in which to have the state pay for it.
Great. So they're literally working on it today.
Yeah,
Wow.
they pulled out all the rocks out and the tar with the forms and dug over there where the ramp's gonna be, and hopefully it should pour tomorrow all day and put up the signs and all that.
So, and then once we get that, like the final inspection, and he gives us the certificate of compliance, then we will definitely have a fandango.
Yay.
Is there any estimate, like from the very first time in December, October, when y'all reached out to the ADA, what was the turnaround time to get them down here?
So this is the communication is obviously, we don't read emails very well on anyone's level. We'd actually emailed him at the beginning of September to inspect on the 30th. And like I said, communication never happened. So then his secretary reached back out at the beginning of October saying, oh, I have you scheduled for October, I want to say 30th, like it literally was the wrong month. And then he was out here and he gave his report within 2 days. And then they've already been corresponding back with him on all the other little concerns. And then we honestly had 275 days to be fully compliant. So we'll be fully compliant before that deadline. So ideally, we'll reach back out to him when the project's completed, ask if he wants to physically be here, or if he wants just pictures. And then we could, hopefully it wouldn't take but more than a week.
Okay, so this theoretically can turn around quick.
It should. I mean, that's how it was explained when we. Yeah. So,
No questions on that?
All right, moving on to item C, update from the Parks and Recreation Department Manager.
Perfect, David. That's what I put you on here, because I just like to hear everything that's actually happening. Stuff that you've accomplished over last month, things that are gonna be coming up this month, just so we kind of know what's happening within the Parks Department.
Okay, well. Started getting ready because softball, baseball, all that is coming up, so we've been getting all the fields ready. And all the practice fields scraped and ready to go for all the kiddos, and then. Been having more of attention on manual paint. We went ahead and painted all the bleachers, all the columns for the shade structure. Put tarps around both of the dugouts, and we're gonna paint the fence. Which is all made out of tin, right? So we're gonna do that one. Got that other field ready, and then, of course, the number one, the dog park.
Oh, yeah.
We're on the last hole, we have like a foot left, that's pretty hard. And as soon as that's over, I already got in touch with Herman, where his crew's gonna come in and do the rest, and all we have to do is probably just the tin on the top. So we're almost like 70% on that. And then everything else, I started watering just a little bit, just the fields, and other than that, I think we're pretty good from right now.
Well, that actually sums up my next item, but the 70% on the dog park, how many total feet are that? Is
How much what?
How many feet did y'all have to drill into?
It's 3 by 3 by 3.
3 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot deep?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
It was the one over at the.
so this isn't a build yourself canopy. This was the heavy duty one from the library.
Like
Oh, I
the
remember.
Yeah, so it was donated. And we've had to work with people's schedules, so I know he gets mad because I said this was on your list to be done by September 30th. But it is working with people's schedules to get it. Because once again, it's being donated to be put in as well. They only ask that the city basically do the whole of the contract.
How many total holes?
6 holes. So he's gonna donate the concrete, the rebar, and the bolts, everything,
Awesome.
but we just have to do the holes. And just put the tin on top.
Right.
And then after that, we'll go ahead and install the tarp, already got the tarp, and then we'll do that gravel on there. Different gravel, so there's too many complaints with the other one. Just a little more round,
And
Oh, it
everything
was poking.
yeah,
for the dogs?
Yeah.
So it is gonna be dog friendly? Everything that we put in there is gonna be
Mhm.
okay for the dogs? Okay.
I believe the first round of gravel was actually donated.
yeah.
It wasn't selected by the
It's
city.
cause we do get complaints, of course, it's like, my dog's out here in 105 degrees and. "Well, what is your dog doing out here? Okay, yeah, I'll try to change it, so,
I know the public has asked for that for a while, which is why it was initiated. They were wanting like shade or something at the dog park. So
yeah, then that, and then
be a good project.
put more signs, cause a lot of people don't know where the dog park is, especially the tourists, whatever. So, and then that, and planted some more trees, cause,
The dog part was a donation, so it wasn't. It was a community who wanted it. I believe it was the animal shelter, not shelter,
HS.
society,
Humane Society and a couple of benefactors that.
And they did have a funding thing for it. So you may reach back out to them and see if that is still open and that funding, whatever's in that thing can go towards, signage or maybe, something, who knows? I don't know what AHS is gonna do with it. Because that project was with Ms. Bishop, previous director.
Yeah.
And then the last question I had was, since y'all are working on the softball fields, baseball fields, are gophers still a problem?
just on, okay, everywhere else except manual payment. Some reason they just don't like it there, which is good. But other than that, I mean, we just have to keep that in dirt and bag drag and everything,
Bill, man.
yeah.
Do we spray the paint?
Yeah, before we do anything, we get that box urine. That's like liquid, it's like granules.
Uh-huh.
Put it in there and then cover it and then. It's been doing a good job. We ran them off to the golf course now.
I'm a grandfather.
Yes, the golf course is not happy
Yeah.
between that and the.
Now trees are falling down, it's the wind. It's not the gopher. Right?
Did we have a few of them at the golf course from there?
So there.
Actually, that last windstorm took out a lot of trees.
I saw one over here that got a carport and there was like an old car under it too, and it's. I didn't even clean that up. Gosh.
After you stop crying.
Yeah, it's horrible. All right, well, that takes care of C and D. So we move to action items. Action item A, approve a recommendation to the city council regarding a proposed ordinance amending chapter 74, Parks and Recreation, Article 2, municipal swimming pools, so we did last month, to the Alpine Code of Ordinance. Amending rules and regulations for the city pool, providing the establishment of up to a $500 penalty for occurrence or violations of the ordinance. All right. Thank you, Jerry.
I guess on that one,
We have to have a motion.
Oh.
Oh,
And what's, oh, I see.
you have to have a motion and a second to start discussion.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Let's put in a motion.
Move to start a discussion about the approval and recommendation of city council. I'll second that.
Second that motion. All right. This is all we did last month.
so a lot of this too, I was gonna say, if y'all, when we look through it, I guess it's any questions for Gio, the one I was gonna start with is. Because this will end up getting moved up to council and the council will judge to approve. Gio, section 7476, the very first line in there, the council is, and then it says shall designate. So it just needs to be marked off is. The council shall designate.
7476.
Yeah, very first one.
Okay.
Designated as is crossed out, but not is.
And then I just had one question. And I know we talked about it, 74-115, accompaniment of small children. All children under 12 years of age in the employer must be accompanied by a parent or other responsible adult person. I thought we were gonna set an age limit, or were we just,
Yeah, I think it can be 18, like we.
because it was who was 18 years of age or older, or I know we talked about 18, 16,
Oh, wait.
yeah, we talked
Then
about,
did I
I
say
just went off the
13?
notes that I think.
yeah.
I was wondering 13 because I remember talking about school district and privacy policy.
And it may have been 13, I know we talked about it, but I honestly have slept a little bit since
That's
then.
13.
Because
I like
PG
that.
13 and all that stuff.
So 13. So then we just need to modify that one that says adult person who is 13
Under
years
13.
or older. So in other words, you know, like my 13-year-old nephew could take his 10-year-old niece into the pool.
So how do you want that to read specifically?
Adult person who is 13 years of age or older. So just change 18 to 13.
So that it's all children under 12 years of age in the pool area must be accompanied by a parent or other responsible adult person, age 13.
So then we should make it 18. We're gonna put it to 12. Or maybe we were thinking under 13 years of
That's
age.
what I was thinking.
Yeah, because I remember saying that, like we would say adult if it's 18, so they have to be.
So leave the 18.
Yeah, so leave the adult person who is 18 years of age or older and change the 12 to 13.
So the only problem that could ever cause would be 15 and 16-year-olds going up there and not having an adult. Is that an issue that y'all would see? Or do they always come up with somebody?
If they wouldn't have to have an adult if they're 14, 15, 16, 17,
Okay. I'll
It's only
put under.
under.
So 13 to 13 and up can be there at 30. Can be doing what they do.
That's where we got the whole PG-13, like that's where,
Yeah.
that's when we started talking about all the
They're
school.
old enough to watch Nightmare on Elm Street. So bathing caps required was removed, 74,114, yeah.
Yeah, would they need to amend the original motion to include the two changes?
I would just say to, approve, you would have to amend the original motion since it was just to discuss. So it's usually better just to like make a motion to approve and then vote against it if y'all don't want to approve it. But so now y'all would need to make a motion to amend the original motion to approve with the changes discussed.
Who's gonna make that?
And is that all the changes that y'all are looking at?
Let's give it a little time, I hadn't fully count, yeah. Because everything, whatever we agree with here, will end up going to council, and so going over it with the fine tooth comb today, saves it getting sent back to council.
So the tobacco vape, okay, so now they have those nicotine little packages with that, you know how they say, what's not tobacco, it's nicotine.
I think it says specifically.
So like those skull bandits back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, now they have
They're
nicotine,
nicotine, so you don't speak on anything, but it's nicotine,
Oh, huh,
so I don't know, if that would,
That's like a whole big pen thing, no?
I think it specifically says
but those, it would be like, you see the smoke,
no
you.
smoking,
hide it.
vaping, dipping, or other use of tobacco in the full area shall be permitted.
is tobacco allowed in the park? I can't remember with that rule.
No.
Then it makes sense not to allow it in full, I was.
Well, no, it says it's not allowed, specifically vaping, dipping, or other use of tobacco. But I think you might have a fine line between what they're considering tobacco
Yes,
and nicotine. Nicotine is a product of tobacco, not tobacco directly.
because I'll say, well, we're not spitting it, we're not smoking it, we do have it there.
What if they did that in the park? Wonder what chief would say.
Actually, I don't think you.
Yeah, you wouldn't notice, that's the thing.
So then I don't think it would be too big of a. I think for the next, or for the summer, we need to monitor to see if we're picking up little.
Yeah. it'll- Okay,
Good catch. Good thought.
we started on the food, so. Search tank up, that's what we'll call Johnny for today, but that's gonna call. Bio back and check, that search tank we have.
Water.
So I don't know if we could still do that. And we did it with the pumps we have, there's still a bunch left. But before they would do it, I would reach it out, make sure. Let's see how much. It's regular, not just from after a month. Really,
These are all those.
And maybe you said showers are still required?
Yeah.
For state stuff? We say glass drinks prohibited, food allowed, but then it says, okay, no glass drinks. So people do bring in drinks?
Yes, we actually used to sell them.
Okay,
We used to do concessions. That's when I learned. A lot.
people will go to the schedule of fees.
Yes, and those are actually, I think we have them set for April 1st or 15th. There's,
I'm not too sure.
yeah,
But yes, we did add them to parks and recreation fees. A new one.
And does the Civic Center and, does everything else park related go through the schedule of fees or no? I can't recall.
No, not yet. That needs to be updated as well, the ordinance. Right now it says that it'll be set by resolution, but that's about it.
they are set annually. And I know they're working on changing the civic center,
Okay.
coming up with some suggestions.
And I know Vio's been, makes it easier to put everything in schedule of fees. For y'all's perspective, instead of doing resolutions for every time we want to raise something $1.
Well, it's still a resolution with the schedule of fees attached.
Gotcha. It's one resolution instead of both bunch.
It would be.
Yeah, and it's extracting those fees from the ordinance and, having them all in one uniform place.
Makes it easier for the.
Provides a convenience for the public to be able to go to one place as well.
That's all the questions I have. Y'all have anything? I guess you just, as a learning experience, can you walk the board, quickly through this process? Once they approve this, what it will look like over the next month as it goes to council and before it becomes actual law? I think that's fascinating.
So once you all make a recommendation to approve, then after that, we will basically take the amended ordinance and send it to the city council and the city attorney for a period of 2 weeks to review. Once that 2-week period is up, we'll basically calculate it and we'll schedule it for a first and second reading, because all the ordinances need 2 readings for our policy. So it'll go to 2 city council meetings. On the second council meeting, there will be a public hearing where people can make their comments, and we have to publicize that in the paper. That's about it, right? Maybe?
And then once approved, we send notice to the paper so that the public knows that it's been approved, and then the website also gets updated. So that when you pull up the ordinance, it would be the.
And then bathing caps are allowed. That's the process. Pretty cool.
I mean, we don't have to wear them, but we can still wear them, right?
Yes.
All right, so we need to make a motion to amend
The original one.
the original motion,
With
In
change.
the same motion.
To approve.
the amended. Amended.
I make a motion to amend our original motion, to approve the recommendation, for city council, with the changes that we just made.
Second,
It's okay.
all in favor? Aye, motion carries. All right,
Do they need to dispose of the original or no?
Yes. So now y'all will just basically vote to approve the original motion as, and then once y'all do that, it'll kind of just dispose of the whole thing.
And they just did that, I think, right?
yeah,
They approved the amendment, right?
Yeah, they approved the amendment.
So now they have to vote to approve the original motion as amended.
Okay.
oh, just.
So it's just another vote.
Make a motion to approve the, original motion as amended.
Okay. Motion to approve the original motion as amended.
All in favor? Motion carries. All right. And okay. Next we have board member comments.
Off topic, but I'm sad that it's not always gonna be.
So you're just done with city council or?
Well, I didn't run, so there'll be another gentleman that's taking the seat. And I guess that would be a good explanation, because we're ex officio non-voting members. So there will be 5 council members, and they'll rejigger those people so that you'll have a new city council member sitting in this seat to work with you all. I don't know who that'll be, not necessarily the Ward 3 gentleman or Ward 1. I think, and Megan could speak to this, that they'll kind of say, what are you interested in? And one of the council members will really approve for it.
So we'll go back before council because we'll have a changeover in the council and we'll have them make a recommendation to sit as ex officios on the boards of their choosing.
And are you free the second Wednesday of the month?
Yeah, you have some extra time now, that you're gonna be on council.
We'll vote your chairman as.
I am gonna get involved in something, I'm gonna take a little time off.
Oh, you will be masked. Anything else,
Oh,
please?
yeah.
All right, it is 6:08 and we officially adjourn this meeting.